Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. With deep humility, we take shelter of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas. Today we're observing the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we're especially indebted to him, as Srila Prabhupada pointed out many, many times, that he was the engineer of the modern-day Krishna consciousness movement. If you have a few devotees, you can sit in a room and read Srimad Bhagavatam and cook a little khichdi, and there's no real difficulty, although you may fight over who gets what room. It's not a big issue. You can go on very happily performing Krishna consciousness one way or the other. But if you get 300 or 600 or 3,000 or 30,000 or 300,000 or 3 million people who want to chant Hare Krishna, you have to have some institution. And as even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur pointed out, there's a way in which when you start to institutionalize, you have a contradiction in terms with a spontaneous process of devotional service, and then you have to regulate it in various ways. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur envisioned a movement that would encompass the whole world and bring together people from all different cultures. Even in a multinational company, it's very difficult to coordinate between various countries and present the same product. You have to put it in different packaging, because what attracts people in America doesn't attract people in Japan or China or Europe. And there's language barriers. There are currency exchange issues. I'm speaking about multinational companies. But when we come to the Krishna consciousness movement, we have the same issues in making an organization that accommodates people all over the world. Only those with very broad-minded vision can accommodate a multinational corporation. And the greatest of Vaishnavas, the acharyas, have the capacity to think beyond a room with 3 people in it reading Bhagavatam together. And they think in terms of 300, 3,000, 300,000, 3 million, 30 million, the whole world, and how everyone in the world can read Bhagavatam together and chant Hare Krishna. And how are you going to serve khichdi to 300,000 or 3 million people? That requires a genius of management and also the spiritual will to develop such a thing. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had such a genius. He was an associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, spiritually connected always to the realm of the spiritual world, and brought before our eyes the modern blueprint for the Krishna conscious movement, and then instituted it through his son, Bimala Prasad, who became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the tradition has carried on through His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and other Gaudiya acharyas and gurus who are spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world with the same idea in mind. How will people everywhere be able to take to Krishna consciousness despite language barriers, cultural barriers, and the various ways in which we have to organize in order to accommodate all of them? And these all emanated from the mind and heart of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So the trouble that we take in the modern day, to whatever extent we can, to organize in such a way that we can accommodate all kinds of people is a way of serving Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur by spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in ways that other people can take to it. And this is a kind of sadhana, thinking about how others can be accommodated. Atma pamyena sarvatra samam pashiti orjuna sukham vayarivadukam sayogi paramomata. Krishna says the best yogis are the ones who are thinking about others in a compassionate way, knowing that they're suffering, and how will they be able to take to Krishna consciousness. And the trouble that one takes in that way counts towards cultivating Krishna consciousness, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a kind of regimented way, ordered his various generals to go to strategic places in order to spread Krishna consciousness, and gave them missions. For instance, the mission given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Sanatana Goswami was to go to Vrindavan. There was no semblance of the Krishna conscious movement there till they got there, and they began to institutionalize. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipano Shadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro. There's a way in which they brought together the most important shastras to show the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srimad Bhagavatam, which are synonymous, to the world, so that they could be followed systematically and that they had the theological clout to prove their efficacy and the efficacy of the practices. And Rupa and Sanatan reestablished temples that were lost to antiquity. And then, of course, they brought forward the literatures. And this took extensive work. So the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, are exalted by Srinivasacharya as those who followed the mood and method of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then spread Krishna consciousness to others all over the world, and made a pipeline through which the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which first appeared in Madhavendra Puri and then came down to the world through Mahaprabhu and his associates, could be spread all over the world. And now even today we find that people can have access to that through not only the literature, but also through the modern day followers of the parampara. There has to be both. Otherwise, what is the value for people who can barely understand how to wake up in the morning and have a hard time avoiding grossly sinful activities if they don't have modern followers they can look at and say, oh, this person has stuck with the process and has made spiritual progress because of it. And then they have to have the substantiating literatures which show what the process is and so forth. All this takes great work. And that was the work of the Goswamis. And therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is known as the 7th Goswami, because he did the same things. He followed the same mood and method of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Therefore, by the Vaishnavas of his time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was known as the 7th Goswami. It is said that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born in a family in which his parents died at a very young age. So he was then put under the care of his maternal grandparents, but then a while later was transferred to his paternal grandparents. His grandfather, at whose home he lived, did Kedarnath Dutt, was named Radhaballabha, and Raj Ballabha. And although he was living as a grahasta. He was very staunch Vaishnav, and he wore saffron even at home. And he would get up early in the morning, the wee hours of the morning, and chant Hare Krishna and perform pujas all the way into mid-afternoon. And he was an influence on Kedarnath Datta. It is said that just before passing from the world, Raj Ballabha gave a benediction to his grandson Kedarnath Datta that you will become a great Vaishnav. And just after making the proclamation, he passed away from the world. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an intellectual. There are not many intellectuals in this world. In the Bhagavatam 13th chapter, in a purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about how in this day and age, there really are no philosophies. People don't think things out very clearly. They don't have intellectual capacity. Prayanal parishashavya kalavasmin yugejana manda sumanna matayo manda bhagya hipadrita. In the age of Kali Yuga, people have short lives. They'll be extremely quarrelsome, lazy, especially when it comes to spiritual life, misguided. They have very bad ideas in Kali Yuga. Prayanal parishashavya kalavasmin manda sumanda. Matayo. Their ideas are sumanda. They're really stupid. Like putting televisions behind every seat on the airplane, in the supermarket, and then putting 500, 1,000 channels of complete nonsense that pollutes the atmosphere. And that's a stupid idea. It's the worst idea anybody ever had. And they get worse from there. Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya hupadrita. So there are very few intellectuals. We don't see people with much capacity for thinking. What to speak of thinking about Shastra or knowing Shastra, following the tradition. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was truly an intellectual. As I mentioned earlier, he wrote poetry, the most beautiful poetry. Every single poem and song that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote was a smash hit. That can only happen in an empowered personality. Poetry is not easy to write. If you write a long poem and you put one word that's discordant, it ruins the whole thing. And people will not regard it well. But nothing is out of place in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings. How is that possible? Such an intellect. And in 3 languages. 3 languages, expert, poetical, philosophical. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his youth, was such a great intellect but at the same time, he was a seeker. He showed the path of the seeker. Ecumenical, open to studying all the different religions of the world. He studied Quran. He studied the Bible. And then, of course, Srimad Bhagavatam, which at that time was not considered well in India because there was a consistent effort by the British to undermine the culture of India. This is the tendency of those who have envy within their hearts. So they want to destroy the cultures of others. They want to usurp and control others. If you stage a skit and you put somebody in charge as the constable, the policeman, the jail warden, even in a play, the dark-hearted side of those Kali Yugaites, it'll come out and they'll start to lord it over others. And that's a natural tendency in Kali Yuga, to dominate others and to put one's own ideas as the best. And the Bhagavatam had been a subject matter for the British to ridicule. Who is this Krishna? His activities in Vrindavan and so forth. So there was a kind of lack of self-esteem in India at that time amongst those who were followers of Sanatana Dharma because of this systematic effort to undermine the culture. Of course, it was hard to do. No one has ever done away with the culture of Sanatana Dharma for one reason. It's eternal, and this spirit of Indians has been always through their culture and the practice of Sanatana Dharma to withstand even the cultural influences that have come to India over and over again. Nonetheless, at certain times, there's a waning, and there was definitely a waning at that time. Even the intellectuals of the time, of whom Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one, were considering ways in which to syncretize various other philosophies to come out with something that would be acceptable to everyone. Bhaktivinoda Thakur studied Srimad Bhagavatam along with the other scriptures of the world, and then he found Chaitanya Charitamrita. And from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a garland of the most beautiful verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and which gives the perfect philosophy and the example of how it's followed by Mahaprabhu and his associates. He understood then the culmination of all philosophy of theology was perfectly presented by the great savior of the East, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, Christian theology has so many branches, different ways, and there are various unexplained ideas and concepts, but he found within Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings everything that was appealing and important from all the scriptures of the world, completely in confluence in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's said that at that time it was difficult to even find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Fast forward to today, when we can get Chaitanya Charitamrita in many languages and make it available to people in general. It's actually a miracle that came from the heart of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because as we know, he wanted to see books go all over the world. Not only did he want it, he made it happen. Who knows what the postal system was at the time to be able to send books from India at that time? When we first went to Mayapur, the first trip we went to Mayapur, we got off the bus and we were at Dum Dum Airport. There was a man sitting on the floor in the middle of the airport, and he was putting holes in some kind of documents using a rusty nail and a hammer. And that was in 1970s. What to speak of in the 1800s, what India was like, how Bhaktivinoda Thakur got books published and then sent overseas to Emerson, Thoreau, McGill University in Canada, and many other places. He had this expansive desire to see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy go to everyone. Just a side note, we should never take for granted what we've been given through the desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that was channeled through His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is relentless in publishing books, relentless, every day getting up to write his books, and then urging his followers, some of them fledgling, that I want these not only studied carefully in groups every day, in classes, but I want them distributed to the world. This was all following the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada knew it and said it many times. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur really is the first modern day example of an acharya representing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose movement had fallen into disrepute over so many years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as is the tendency in the material world. Krishna says to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that the parampara, the mood and mission, is always challenged because of the enervating power of time. It gets changed, altered, and then gradually goes in various deviant directions. And many deviating or deviant schools of thought arose after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, of the Sakhi Bedis, the Sahajas. They're listed and enumerated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just so that we can know the difference between what is the actual parampara and the mood and mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and those who have deviated. All those had become prominent, and at the same time, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas had been degraded to such a point that people did not consider them to be serious spiritual practitioners because of these many deviations. You see, this is the power of Shastra. As Joseph T. McConnell points out, that the soft institution of the Krishna consciousness movement is the literature, because it's the way in which we transport culture across time and geology. We have to move the culture from one generation to the next. It's not so easy. We see what was popular even 20 years ago, 50 years ago now, and then becomes the bane of society, and people change their moods, their styles so frequently. So how do you move an ancient culture from one era to the next? And how do you move it across the planet and get it into people's hands and so forth? So this comes from the literature. The books are the foundational, the spine of human society. Even the United States of America, in this little experiment that's going on over here on this chunk of land, has been guided by a document. So the books are so important. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought to light the teachings of Lord Chaitanya from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was written by Kaviraj Goswami in the order of all the Vaishnavas of the time, then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur rediscovered it. You see, it survived, and therefore the culture survived. No matter what happens in the external world, when the institution of literature is preserved and becomes prominent, then the ideas and the practice and the mood can also be preserved and passed on. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur then became connected officially to the Sampradaya through his Diksha Guru, Vipina Vihari Goswami. Now, it's a very interesting point. Sometimes, actually, there is quite a debate, and there's always going to be a debate, and one has to understand clearly the mood, mission, and shastra behind one's tradition that one's following. Otherwise, we fall into niyamagraha. We're doing it only because, other people are doing it. We don't know why. We're not clear. Or we just stop doing it altogether and think, not important to follow this or that. I just won't do it, because we don't have a clear understanding of the practice. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur received his Pancharatric initiation from Vipina Bihari Goswami, but his prominent guru or in the Bhagavat line, is Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. As some people disputed at the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who was the follower of Bhaktivonda Thakur, whose guru was Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, about where's the connection through Diksha. Of course, those who are mostly superficially inclined in the Bhagavatam, the neophytes, Acharyam eva hare pujam yashradaye hite natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smitaha. Those who are prakrita bhaktas are mostly concerned only with archan. They worship the deity in the temple, natad bhakteshu cha anyeshu, but they don't know how to spot a pure devotee. They don't know a Bhagavat when they see it. Nor do they know how to do good for others, which is the main concern of Bhagavats. Tapyante lokatapena sarava prayasojana parama aradanam taddi purushasyakilapmanaha. Shukadeva Goswami speaks about the great Bhagavat Lord Shiva and says, after Lord Shiva drinks the ocean of poison to save the world, great Bhagavats, they are paradukha-dukhi. They suffer because of the pain of others, and therefore they go to austerities themselves to save the others. This is the mood of the Bhagavat. And the Bhagavats, Bhavadvita Bhagavatas Tirta Bhuta Swayam Vibho Tirta Kurvanti Tirtani Swantak Snena Gadabrata. As Yudhishthira told Vidura, you carry the holy places in your heart. You purify the holy places because of your presence, because you carry Lord Krishna, or more importantly, you have love for Lord Krishna within your heart. And so we find that there's the Panchatric line, which is very important. We have to have a Diksha initiation. As Jiva Goswami said, it's especially imperative in the Kali Yuga because people have such bad samskars coming into this life. And if they didn't before, they will by the time they're 5, just from the environment in the material world. So they have to have Pancharatric initiation. But the Bhagavat initiation is also mentioned. We hear Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, Ishan Isha Avatarakam. Chaitanya Charitamrita starts by worshiping all the gurus, not just the Diksha Guru, but also those who give instruction in the Bhagavat Marg. And one may become, whichever it is, becomes most prominent, that is helping one the most in the process of devotional service, naturally becomes prominent. And there is a way in which, in any religious system, the priestly class, because they get some power by their position, then can simply claim power because of their heritage. And this happened after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There were DNA line coming from Srila Nityananda Prabhu. We had this idea, there was this idea propagated that if you were initiated in the line of Nityananda, then you were bona fide, and only the family members could be included, and therefore its exclusive power went to one kind of person. But kiba vipra kibanyashi shudra ye Krishna tattva veta she guru hai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great reformers come to actually bring the essence of religious practice to the world and wrest it away from the hands of those who would abuse power by simply claiming proprietorship because they're in a biological line, pranali. It's simply a line. But they say siddha pranali. Where's the siddha? Where's the perfection? That has to be there. You have to know the science of Krishna and actually follow the line of Krishna. In the Tattva Sandarbha, there's a verse, number 7, when he begins his Mangalacharna. Jiva Goswami says, Ata Natva Mantra Gurun Bhagavatarta Dan. That he's offering his obeisances to his mantra guru and also to his other gurus, for instance, his Bhagavata gurus. So this became a point of contention, the difference between taking initiation in a particular line through Diksha as compared to the importance of the line of Bhagavata gurus who give shiksha in the process of understanding the Bhagavatam. And this is, in history of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, something that came to a head because it was a very awkward situation. The line of these kind of Diksha gurus and the idea that one had to be a Brahmana in order to give initiation and so forth was something that Vipina Vihari Goswami's Parivar brought up this point. Why did Raghunath Das Goswami receive from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a Govardhan Shila and not a Shaligram Shila? Because they claimed that he was from a lower... Hare Krishna. Electricity went out. Mercury is in retrograde. Eclipses are coming. So there was a dispute, and that is that in the line of those who considered the pranali, or just the physical connection through receiving the mantra, to be all important, and considering that one had to be a Brahmana and therefore Brahmanism was more important than the idea of being advanced in Krishna consciousness. And the claim was made that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had given a Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami because he wasn't qualified to worship a Shalagram Shila, which is the right only of those who are Brahminically initiated. So there was to be a debate. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, respecting his Guru Jana and considering that his Diksha Guru was on the side of the promoting Brahmanism above Vaishnavism, he didn't go to that debate, but he sent his son Kedaranath Dutt, which is the time at which his Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, soon to be, star began to shine very, very brightly, showing that he was that ray of Vishnu that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had prayed for, who would come to help spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So this huge assembly of people who had come to hear this epic debate, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bimala Prasad, excuse me, I misspoke earlier, Bimala Prasad Dutt, son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, came and he described the glories of the Brahmins, and the Brahmins there were basking in this Shastric glorification. And then he began to make the strong case, which is all recorded in a book, which is available, recording the recorded conversation, transcribed, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's speech at that time, showing through Shastra how the Bhagavat line is the most important. Those who have taken to Krishna consciousness and become Vaishnavas are already Brahmanas. It's included within Brahmanism. Quoting Srimad Bhagavatam, Aho batashva pachato gariyanya jiva gre varditi namatubhyam te pusta paste juhavus sasna arya brahmanachur nama grananti ete. Devahuti exclaiming that those who are chanting Hare Krishna, they're freed from their prarabdha karmas. They become qualified even to perform Vedic sacrifices because of that. And of course, what to speak of those who are seeing the Lord face to face. And at that debate, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was so successful in his presentation that the crowd became electrified to the point that they all surged towards him to try to take the dust of his lotus feet. And the police who were there saw that there was going to be a stampede, maybe a riot. And so they picked up this young sadhu and they dipped his lotus feet in a bucket of water, and then they distributed the water as fast as they could to the crowd to appease them. This is the son of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So this idea, Nigama kalpatoror galitam palam shukamukharam rita drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam mahuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha, is given at the outset of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That this Bhagavatam is not just the mature fruit of the tree of Vedic literature, but it's also pibata, it's drinkable because it's semi-solid. It's been blended. It's been like a smoothie. You can just drink it. No special other requirement except that you have to be Nivrtatarsha upagiyamana bhavaushara chotra manobirama. You just can't be an animal killer, needlessly slaughtering other living entities out of envy, or yourself, mutilating, killing your soul. If you can rise above that base quality, then you can sit and hear Bhagavatam, not just hear it, but pibata, you can drink it. This is the Bhagavat line. And there's a way in which, from the heart of the person Bhagavata, that person who has heard the Bhagavatam and been moved by it to dedicate his or her life fully to the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to Lord Krishna, and knows Vedeshu Yagyeshu Tapasu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Palam Tishtam Atyeti Tat Sarva Midam Baditva Yogi Param Stanam Upaiti Chadyam, that I don't need to do any other sacrifice. Everything's perfected by hearing Krishna Katha. Shraddha Shabdi Vishwas Kahe Sudri Dadinshchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. All other activities are done by submissively hearing the Bhagavata, just by drinking in the powerful vibration that comes from the Bhagavatam, especially from the mouths of the pure devotees. And this is Kapiladev says that Satam prasangamam aviri samvivo vido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata tajjoshanat ashwa pavargavartnani shradara tir bhaktir anukramishati. Just like yesterday, Nirkul and I were on a walk and we were noticing that everything's blooming, vegetables are coming out of people's vegetable gardens. It's a miracle. How does it happen? It's because of the sun. The all-pervading sun awakens every living entity. Amazingly, the energy of the sun nourishes these plants. They all come alive. And in the same way, the effulgence of Krishna maintains the entire world. The effulgence makes the seed-like universes expand into their full form, just as a tomato plant starts as the tiniest little seed, and then all of a sudden it's manifesting arms and leaves and flowers and then fruits, and it all comes out. And in a similar way, just by hearing the Bhagavatam, in the association of Bhagavatas, so then that vibration, Satam prasangama mavirya samvido bhavanti hrit karna kata, it acts like a remedial, like medicine. And then one naturally advances to step by step to the highest position of devotional service. So this is the Bhagavat Marg. And the Bhagavat Marg, this powerful vibration, is passed from one great Vaishnav to the next through the system of the Bhagavata Parampara. And this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur put forward. It said that he had written, after that incident, the most prominent of Vaishnavas in the Bhagavata Parampara, and posted it outside of his room. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote that song glorifying those members of the that are mentioned there in that line of great devotees. This is not at all saying that we don't need to have Diksha initiation, but it's saying that Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, we worship all the gurus, and that there is a Bhagavat Parampara. So this was something, an idea brought forth and carried through to the present day that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made very prominent. So we are the recipients of that. Amazingly, in all parts of the world, people, because of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, are able to take to this process of Krishna consciousness and become advanced simply by associating with devotees, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, taking to the Archana process, worshiping the deity, going to the holy places, and so on. So now to honor Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, following its footsteps, we'll hear some Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we'll take some reflections and questions to expand. This is from Adi Leela, Chapter 2, Text 6. Impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and the personality of Godhead are three subjects in the glowing effulgence. The partial manifestation and the original form are their three respective predicates. Anuvada age, pache videya stapana, she arto kahi shuna shastra vivarana. A predicate always follows its subject. Now I shall explain the meaning of this verse according to the revealed scriptures. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Vishnu Paratattva Purna Jnana Purnananda Parama Mahatattva. Krishna, the original form of the personality of Godhead, is the summum bonum of the all-pervading Vishnu. He is all perfect knowledge and all perfect bliss. He is the supreme transcendence. Nanda Sutta Bali Jare Bhagavate Gai She Krishna Avatirna Chaitanya Gosai. He whom Srimad Bhagavatam describes as the son of Nanda Maharaj has descended to earth as Lord Chaitanya. Purport. According to the rules of rhetorical arrangement for efficient composition in literature, a subject should be mentioned before its predicate. The Vedic literature frequently mentions Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and therefore these three terms are widely known as the subjects of transcendental understanding. But it is not widely known that what is approached as the impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental body, nor is it widely known that the Supersoul or Paramatma is only a partial representation of Lord Chaitanya, who is identical with Bhagavan himself. Therefore, the descriptions of Brahman as the effulgence of Lord Chaitanya, the Paramatma as his partial representation, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as identical with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must be verified by evidence from authoritative Vedic literatures. The author wants to establish first that the essence of the Vedas is the Vishnu Tattva, the absolute truth, Vishnu, the all-pervading Godhead. The Vishnu Tattva has different categories, of which the highest is Lord Krishna, the ultimate Vishnu Tattva, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, and throughout the Vedic literature. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described as Nanda Sutta, the son of King Nanda. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that Nanda Sutta has again appeared as Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he bases this statement on his understanding that the Vedic literature concludes there is no difference between Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This the author will prove. If it is thus proved that Sri Krishna is the origin of all tattvas, truths, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and that there is no difference between Sri Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it will not be difficult to understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also the same origin of all tattvas. The same absolute truth, as he is revealed to students of different realizations, is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Text 10. Prakash Visheshe Teha Dare Teen Nam Brahma Paramatma Aru Swayam Bhagavan. In terms of his various manifestations, he is known in three features called the impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and the original personality of Godhead. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained the word Bhagavan in his Bhagavat Sandarbha. The personality of Godhead, being full of all conceivable and inconceivable potencies, is the absolute supreme whole. Impersonal Brahman is a partial manifestation of the absolute truth realized in the absence of such complete potencies. The first syllable of the word Bhagavan is Ba, which means sustainer and protector. The next letter, Ga, means leader, pusher, and creator. Va means dwelling. All living beings dwell in the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord dwells within the heart of every living being. Combining all these concepts, the word Bhagavan carries the import of inconceivable potency in knowledge, energy, strength, opulence, power, and influence, devoid of all varieties of inferiority. Without such inconceivable potencies, one cannot fully sustain or protect. Our modern civilization is sustained by scientific arrangements devised by many great scientific brains. We can just imagine, therefore, the gigantic brain whose arrangements sustain the gravity of the unlimited number of planets and satellites, and who creates the unlimited space in which they float. If one considers the intelligence needed to orbit man-made satellites, one cannot be fooled into thinking that there is not a gigantic intelligence responsible for the arrangements of the various planetary systems. There is no reason to believe that all the gigantic planets float in space without the superior arrangement of a superior intelligence. This subject is clearly dealt with in the Bhagavad Gita 15:13, where the personality of Godhead says, I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. Were the planets not held in the grip of the personality of Godhead, they would all scatter like dust in the air. Modern scientists can only impractically explain this inconceivable strength of the personality of Godhead. The potencies of the syllable Ba, Ga, and Va apply in terms of many different meanings. Through his different potent agents, the Lord protects and sustains everything, but he himself personally protects and sustains only his devotees, just as a king personally sustains and protects his own children, while entrusting the protection and sustenance of the state to various administrative agents. The Lord is the leader of his devotees, as we learn from the Bhagavad Gita, which mentions that the personality of Godhead personally instructs his loving devotees how to make certain progress on the path of devotion, and thus surely approach the kingdom of God. The Lord is also the recipient of all the adoration offered by his devotees, for whom he is the objective and the goal. For his devotees, the Lord creates a favorable condition for developing a sense of transcendental love of Godhead. For his devotees, the Lord creates a favorable condition for developing a sense of transcendental love of Godhead. Sometimes he does this by taking away a devotee's material attachments by force and baffling all his material protective agents, the MPAs, material protective agents. For thus, the devotee must completely depend on the Lord's protection. In this way, the Lord proves himself the leader of his devotees. You can make a list of your MPAs. The Lord is not directly attached to the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, for he is eternally busy in the enjoyment of transcendental bliss with paraphernalia composed of his internal potencies. Yet, as the initiator of the material energy, as well as the marginal potency, the living beings, he expands himself as the Purusha avatars who are invested with potencies similar to his. The Purusha avatars are also in the category of Bhagavat Tattva because each and every one of them is identical with the original form of the personality of Godhead. The living entities are his infinitesimal particles and are qualitatively one with him. They are sent into this material world for material enjoyment, to fulfill their desires to be independent individuals, but still they are subject to the supreme will of the Lord. The Lord deputes himself in the state of supersoul to supervise the arrangements for such material enjoyment. The Lord deputes himself in the state of supersoul to supervise the arrangements for such material enjoyment. The example of a temporary fair is quite appropriate in this connection. If the citizens of a state assemble in a fair to enjoy for a short period, the government deputes a special officer to supervise it. Such an officer is invested with all governmental power, and therefore he is identical with the government. When the fair is over, there is no need for such an officer, and he returns home. The Paramatma is compared to such an officer. The living beings are not all in all. They are undoubtedly parts of the Supreme Lord and are qualitatively one with him, yet they are subject to his control. Thus, they are never equal to the Lord or one with him. The Lord who associates with the living being is the Paramatma, or Supreme Living Being. No one, therefore, should view the tiny living beings and Supreme Living Being to be on an equal level. The all-pervading truth that exists eternally during the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world, and in which the living beings rest in trance, is called the impersonal Brahman. And now we'll take some questions or reflections to expand our conversation about Bhaktivinoda Thakur or any of the subjects that we've heard so far from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Be back in 14 and a half seconds.
You're muted, Maharaj. Okay, it should work now.
Thank you. Okay. So from the Bhagavatam 12, 13, 18. This is the concluding remarks. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramaham Syam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Tachshinvan Su Patan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchyan Nara. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the processes of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. This is a description of the Bhagavata Marg, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. Purport: because Srimad Bhagavatam is completely free of contamination by the modes of nature, it is endowed with extraordinary spiritual beauty and is therefore dear to the pure devotees of the Lord. The word Paramahamsyam indicates that even completely liberated souls are eager to hear and narrate Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are trying to be liberated should faithfully serve this literature by hearing and reciting it with faith and devotion. We know that Shukadeva Goswami, although he was a completely liberated soul and left home, apeta krityam, without undergoing the sacred thread ceremony, went off to the forest, but he was attracted back because his father sent out some of his followers to recite Bhagavatam verses for Shukadeva to hear, and that's why he came back, even though he was a liberated soul. Here we have Sri Madhava Mahotsava reflection. It says, I really like when you said to not take the books for granted. We have immense facility handed to us on a silver platter. I also really like that when you referenced Lord Shiva and said how to do good for others is the main focus of the Bhagavata. Yes. We've had so much handed to us. Krishna hands everything to us. And as I was just reading in that purport, there's a way in which Super Soul comes to facilitate whatever kind of desires we have. He's supervising to make sure that everything gets fulfilled. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yoviditati kaman. There are many eternal living entities. There's one supreme eternal living entity, and thank God for God. And then that one supreme living entity is fulfilling the desires of all the others. Asau gunamayir bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyatmavi swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhunte bhuteshu tadgunan. Just after the creation starts, the Lord again reminds the living entities, here's what you wanted before, I can fulfill your desire, and on goes the material world. So how powerful is it that one can then come in contact with pure devotees and then transfer that desire to the desire for devotional service, through which the Lord is eagerly awaiting to give us facility for. And this is mentioned by Gajendra. He said, it's not that you're ever lazy about this. It's the living entity's desire to try something different from devotional service, and the facilitation of that, it means the material world and all the implications that rest solely and wholly on the person who decides to take a risk and go to a rally without a mask. So we got Pawan Kumar. The Lord disputes himself in the state of super soul to supervise the arrangements for such material enjoyment. The example of a temporary fair is quite appropriate in this connection. If the citizens of a state assemble in a fair to enjoy for a short period, the government deputes a special officer to supervise it. Such an officer is invested with all governmental power, and therefore he is identical with the government. When the fair is over, there is no need for such an officer, and returns home. The Paramatma is compared to such an officer. And just think, you have your own supervisor right there in your own heart. So if you have any complaints or desires, just bring it up. It's like in Japan, they have a system called Konban. They have these police boxes everywhere around Tokyo and the big cities where the police sit in this these little offices. So if you have any problem, questions, things like that, you can go there, ask, they'll take care of you. So we have that little Konban right in our heart. Krishna is just sitting there. How can I help? Anything you'd like? So if we turn our attention there and just go, turn yourself in and say, this is what I really want. Now he'll immediately respond. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. So to anyone who just sincerely turns to me, I'll give the wherewithal to come back to Godhead. Shringar Ras, Devi Dasi, here she is, and she's got a question. She says, the point that you mentioned about Indians having poor self-esteem with respect to Sanatana Dharma is still very much enmeshed in the Indian psychology. Specifically, many educated Indians feel hesitant to embrace Sanatana Dharma. How can we preach to that particular section of the population? Thank you. Well, as Prabhupada said, an Indian, if you scratch an Indian just below the surface, there's Krishna consciousness. So no matter what kind of cultural type of covering has come there, then right below the surface is this spontaneous idea for Krishna. When we started our Harinams down in Palo Alto, they used to be very simpler than they are now, where we'd stand up the whole time and we'd just chant Hare Krishna, rock back and forth and dance. And there was this Indian man I saw early on, and he would walk through the park somehow or other. It was synchronized by Krishna, and he'd see us. And the first time that he saw me there chanting, I mean, somehow he singled me out, and he started cursing and saying, this is all nonsense, and used a lot of foul words. And I was just friendly to him. And the next time he came by, he did it again, but a little less vehemently. And I was still friendly to him, just smiled and waved and so forth. And that went on for a year. And we used to go there every month. And each time he would be a little less critical. And then he'd just kind of walk by and he waved to me. And then one day he came over and he shook my hand. And then after that, he started coming over and hugging me. And so, whatever kind of film of this misunderstanding is there, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Krodha means anger because people are confused, and rightly so, because there have been so many deviant philosophies preached in India, and people get confused by them because they don't make any sense. And that's why Bhaktivonda Thakura wanted a systematized program to teach the Goswamis' literatures in the world. And that's why when somebody reads Bhagavad Gita as it is and can read the Nectar of Devotion, they're smart. Living entities are smart. They can figure things out. That's why they're human beings. Tato Brahma Jignasa. And then they can see, oh, this makes sense. I can follow this. And they're not so angry. So the way that we can do it is be friendly with people and also teach Bhagavad Gita as it is. Keep coming back to Bhagavad Gita because everybody in India accepts Bhagavad Gita. And if they don't, then there's no conversation. You have to accept Bhagavad Gita. All the acharyas, even the Mayavadis, accept Bhagavad Gita. Now we just present Bhagavad Gita as it is and say, okay, prove it by Bhagavad Gita. And we can disprove any kind of weird philosophy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells him about himself. Klesho dikartaras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavad biravapyate. Arjuna flat out asks him, which is better, personal worship or impersonal worship? And Krishna just says it. Personal worship's better. The other thing's a big problem. Don't get into it. And Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya vyasya cha shashvatasya chatarmasya, that I'm the basis of the impersonal Brahman. It all emanates from me. Mata paratanam nanyat kinchadasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutri maniganaiva. Nothing is above me. No thing. Naiva kinchit. Nothing better than Krishna. Bhagavan. So preach Bhagavad Gita, stick to Bhagavad Gita. It's the salvation of all the world. and especially the people of India who are blessed to be born in Bharatvarsha. And then we got Srivata has a reflection here where he says, when speaking about Bhaktivinoda Thakur and how he made Shastra so available for us, it reminded me of the Tulayama Lavinapi verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes how even a moment's association with a Bhagavata devotee of the Lord cannot be compared to birth in the heavenly planets or even liberation. Through these books, I am able to get far more than a moment of association with all these sadhus. It also reminded me of the verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shruti Smriti Puranadi, because this Krishna consciousness movement is justified by all Shastra. This made me feel really grateful for Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all the Vaishnava Acharyas, as it is only by their mercy that I have any hope. And to make any substantial progress, I have to take complete shelter of their instructions and follow it with enthusiasm. The Vaishnavas have taken so much effort to make Shastra accessible to me, so there are no excuses. Krishna has made it easy. Acharyas have made it even more easy, but sometimes I feel like I forget about this and I start taking Shastra for granted, as if it isn't a big deal that I have such easy access to Srimad Bhagavatam. How do I become serious about devotional service and maintain a consistently high level of enthusiasm to make progress as fast as possible? It's all by sadhu sangha. Our association develops our enthusiasm. And if you say an association of like-minded sadhus who are more advanced than yourself, like-minded means they're following Lord Chaitanya, they understand the line that we're in, and and they're more advanced than you, then you'll be in their slipstream. It means like when you're running a race, you get behind the person who's running out front, and what they call drafting, and then the air is cut, and you're able to run behind. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in his song, that I'm running behind my guru, saying, please give me Krishna. And the Hanumat Sheikh Swami revealed to us why he's running behind his guru is because his guru is running behind his guru. They're all running towards Krishna. Okay, let's see if there's anything from the Zoom room.
I just wanted to comment, Maharaj. I was just thinking that as you had mentioned about Mataji's question about the Indians, but I felt that, it's just amazing that when we went to Harinam last year during Thanksgiving, there was one person who was screaming on top of his voice, and he kept telling that what we were doing is just not, and he was requesting everybody around that he should not go and listen to us, and he should not take the books from us. He was really, really screaming for almost an hour. And then one lady just walked in and she said, is he screaming against you for all the good things you guys are doing? So I said, it's okay, it doesn't matter. She said, no, I know he's doing it against you. I'm going to call the cop. So actually after some time, the cops came and they told him that you cannot stand here and do it. They're already taken this place. So you go and stand on the other side and you can do anything you want. So he still was there for a little bit of time. And then later he came and started talking to some of the devotees. And then he was so thirsty that devotees got him water because he was screaming. And after drinking the water, he said, I think now God will save you because you gave me water. And then he walked away. I was just trying to think that I think all the devotees were so calm that even the person who was was showing so much hatred in the beginning was totally calmed down, and he was fine with what we were doing and just went away.
There have been a lot of screaming pastimes down there.
Yes.
I mean, for a while we go there before we had a permit, and those Christians used to come, and they literally have a soapbox to stand on. There's actually a milk crate, and then they get up there with their megaphone. But our kirtan was louder, and I remember one night we were going and we started praying to Lord Nrsingadev, and his megaphone broke. He was looking at it and it just wouldn't work. It was uncanny. And we noticed that whenever the Christians would come and with their big signs that said turn or burn, it's like to do with the LA Rath Yatra, that we sold more books.
Very true.
Because people would come over and they go, are these guys against you? and we say, yeah, they're, and they say, okay, I'll take a book. I don't even know what it is, but I'm gonna, because I'm so against these guys protesting against you, I'm gonna take something.
They had mentioned to me last time at the Venice Beach at the junction, they said that, oh, he's telling us not to take the book. Which is the book he's talking about? I put in the book. I then literally, at least 20 people there in that restaurant who are sitting in the corner, everybody asked, I need one book. I need one. Is it the same book that he's talking about? Yes.
Yeah, so these challenges come all the time. When one tries to present Krishna consciousness, then there's a way that people will oppose, and they'll bring up different points. And we have to look at the mood of the acharyas like Bhaktivonda Thakur, how he would take a strong stand when there were people like Vaisesika in Bengal, who was this mystic. He had some power in his hair, and he came to town in Orissa, actually, and he was impressing everybody by his mystic powers, and he developed a following. And then he started taking advantage of the women in the village and doing his rasa dance and so forth. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur was called to come there and deal with the situation, then he challenged this Vaisesika, who eventually he put in the prison. And then this mystic said, I will kill your whole family. And through his mystic power, all of the family of Bhaktivinoda Thakur became very ill, until the trial in which he was tried and convicted, and then they cut off his hair and he lost all his power. So this story and many others are there about the ways in which Bhaktivinoda would assert himself to make sure that the clear message of Krishna consciousness came through to protect the people of the world. This is one of the duties of the acharya, and those who follow in his footsteps also have to be assertive sometimes. And of course, we follow according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. Sometimes he didn't argue, but he just showed humility. And this is the expertise that one must develop in order to see, according to time, place, and circumstance, how to present. That was really nice, by the way, Srivatsa, what you wrote. It was very nice. Next one is Sri Madhava Mahotsava said, referring to the transformation of hostile man who ended up becoming friendly on Harinam, a lady came cursing us. She got an on-chanting Hare Krishna pamphlet, began reading, then started dancing, and gave a donation and received a Bhagavad Gita, all within 10 minutes. This showed me how powerful the literature is expanding the Harinam. 10 minutes, just see. People are overheated. They need a little direction. Then we have Jai Kanai. It says, earlier in the lecture you mentioned the qualification to hear Bhagavatam, not killing other living entities unnecessarily, not killing the self, Atmahanta. Can you please expand the second point a bit more? Killing oneself means not taking advantage of the human form of life, just wasting it for no reason. Labvam sudurlama bidam bahusambhavante manusyamartadam anityam apihadira turnam yateta. As soon as one understands the importance of human life, one should take advantage of it. It's labvam sudurlamam. It's very rare that it's achieved, the human body. It's a portal. It's actually specifically designed to chant Hare Krishna, this machine. And if you do other stuff with it, it wrecks it. So don't wreck your machine. Chant Hare Krishna. Labvam sudurlama bidam bahu sambhavanti. You only get it after many, many days of standing in line, socially distanced, many, many lifetimes. Socially distanced, you have to wait for like millions of lifetimes, and then you get into the thing and they give you a human body. And then if you waste it after that, you're considered to be Atmaha, a killer of the soul. You just got the most valuable thing. Like, some people inherit wealth and then they just blow it. And they have nothing to show for it. They ended up broke and dependent on others again. So this is a horrible thing, to waste the human form of life. Don't kill your soul by not taking advantage of the human form of life. because then you'll have to wait in line, socially distanced, with a mask on, for another who knows how many million births to get another opportunity. So don't kill the self. Yeah. Anything else from the Zoom room? Look, Ananta Gauranga's here. Ananta Govinda, rather. Excuse me. Hare Krishna. Good to see you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes. Please, Radha Krishna, Kripa Prabhu.
Maharaj, I was just thinking, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his humility, even he was a god himself, in the mood of devotees, and then following all the acharyas, how Prabhupada changed the landscape of the teaching, especially as a spiritual leader, when he claimed himself to be a servant of the people, a servant of the humans. I just felt like that is so distinguished from all other movement which we have happened in India. Right now, there's so many, in certain shape and form, some spiritual endeavors are there, but eventually there is a lack of something where they get puffed up, started getting like, I'm a god now. They started thinking, wait a minute, I have like no million followers, I should be god, because this is unusual. So they cannot digest, even their philosophy may be good and all that. So I just felt like, there's no match to Prabhupada's philosophy. You cannot find anywhere else. It is the best, and we are just lucky that Prabhupada just chosen us to be part of this movement. So I'm really, really grateful to Prabhupada, how he demonstrated through his achar, from his behavior, from his that he's the servant, claiming to be a servant when he's taking promising all of us to take back to Godhead through simple devotional service to Prabhupada.
Yes, thank you for the point, and I appreciate your great enthusiasm for it. Just mention that Prabhupada considered himself the servant of the servant of the servant. Even when he talked about his disciples, he'd say, they are the representatives of my Guru Maharaj, and therefore I am their servant, because I am charged with training them. And with all this humility, at the same time, by the law of Yukta Vairagya, he claimed the unique position as founder Acharya, and he insisted upon it. In fact, there was a time in which some devotees had become influenced by those who were envious of Prabhupada's preaching and his publishing books and so forth. And as an example of this, one of his books came out and it didn't have his title, Prabhupada. It had Swami Bhaktivedanta. And then Prabhupada started making guidelines for putting his title as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, prominent. And so someone might say, isn't this antithetical to the idea of being humble? So humility doesn't always just mean that I become submissive to whatever anybody ever says or whatever happens, and I'm just the servant, so it doesn't matter. I don't even assert myself. There was a famous speaker and leader of a movement who claimed that really there are no gurus, and of course, somebody who says that and has a huge following, it's ironical, because they are taking the position of a guru and then telling everyone there's no gurus. And finally he said, don't even follow me, because there are no gurus and so forth. And this idea is not there in the way Prabhupada presented himself and other acharyas, because, as I mentioned, Prabhupada asserted himself and his position as the exclusive founder Acharya of ISKCON. And that was for Yukta Vairagya, because there's a way in which to maintain the continuity of an institution, one may have to take a position that seems that, oh, well, that's not humble. You're claiming to be the leader. But in doing that, one's actually serving. So one has to be intelligent to understand that when there's a movement to be pressed on, and that people need to have a clear leader and so forth, asserting oneself for the purpose of expanding the movement and taking a position is not antithetical to the principle of Trinadapi Sunicena. In fact, it's the essence of it, which is proved in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna goes forward and fights the war. And it means that humility means putting oneself in a submissive position to Krishna, and that in all circumstances, I follow his will and not mine. Thank you for your point. Anything else from the Zoom room?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes. Oh, Hare Krishna, Malini.
Prabhuji, in the beginning, you were making a point about how we transport the culture through books. And I was just thinking that these days, everybody wants their next generation or their children to always follow their culture and traditions, but they are actually not so successful in doing so because they, by their own example, they don't know complete knowledge. But how this Bhagavatam, when that comes into picture and that comes into people's lives, how the culture, traditions, and knowledge are carried over from one generation to the next. So I was feeling so much grateful that we have these books by the mercy of Bhaktivonda Thakura.
Yes. And having the opportunity to distribute them pleases our great-great or great-great-great grandfather. And the mercy flows down. These personalities are eternally there watching over us, and we have a connection to them through the service in the Parampara. Can you imagine how pleased Bhaktivinoda Thakur would be with his great-great and great-great-great grandchildren who are making the Bhagavatam available to people? And that's why it's addicting, because those who do it feel the mercy coming down through the internal energy. And what to speak of those who are studying the Bhagavatam on a regular basis? All their desires are fulfilled. It's a wish-fulfilling tree, Kalpataru. Thank you very much. Zoom room, anyone?
Haribol Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Sadhu Vrindavan Das.
Haribol Sadhu Vrindavan
You
Prabhu.
were talking about how association is very important. And remember this story of Haridas Thakur, where someone sent a prostitute to actually disturb him from his chanting. The prostitute tried for many days, but when she asked Haridas Thakur, he said, "Just a few more hours, I'll finish my chanting." And at the end of the day, she actually also started chanting, and she became a pure devotee of the Lord.
That's a nice story. And tell us why you brought that up.
Because you were talking about devotee association, how devotee association is really important.
Yes. And then we have so many modern day examples of that, not exactly like that, but just when devotees get to see the potency when they go out to meet people and distribute Krishna consciousness, and they notice how people's hearts change in association with the literatures, the holy name, and taking prasadam and meeting devotees, then it becomes more evident to us of the efficacy of the process, and then we become enlivened to practice it more ourselves. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much. So, the disappearance of the great Vaishnav is a time in which we then notice what that Acharya has left behind for us, and it is incumbent upon us to take advantage of it as much as possible. And so we pray on this day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Divine Disappearance Day that we may take full advantage of his legacy through all the great teachers he inspired, and that we may please him by adopting the proper mood of following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Goswamis, and all their descendants, by imbibing Krishna consciousness through chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, following the Pancharatric Vidhi, and also through spreading Krishna consciousness to as many people as possible. May the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur become prominent in the world, and may the teachings of the Bhagavatam become the gold standard of all philosophy and theology in the world. Thank you for considering our requests. Hare Krishna. Everyone who agrees with these ideas in part or in whole, please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And now we're going to sing one of the hit songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kali Kukur. And then just after that, we're going to have a Pushpanjali ceremony. And you can throw virtual flowers for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we'll have the Guru Puja. We have behind us, I hope you can see, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. So we'll now offer the Pushpanjali to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru
Shri Guru
Sri Yuta Parakamalam
Tatpat Kamalam
Raghunatham Vitam
Vitam
Jivam
Sajivam
Advaitam
Savadutam
Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam
Krishna Chaitanya Devam
Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shri Varshavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prave Namaha Madhuryo Jwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtai Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Apasiddhanta Dvandaharine Namo Gorakishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Parambujayate Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virvava Bhomestvam Nirdesa Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Mata Sarvasva Padambo Jao Radha Manana Mohano Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Sinhasanasta Sriman Radha Shila Govinda Deva Krishnalipi Sevya Manusmarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Vam Shivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Swanir Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estvinaha 18 Thakur Goriyaki Karyanan Atmasat 18 Era Charamanandini Muranat Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Esha Pushpanjali Namo Om Shri Krishna Sankirtan Shri Bhaktivinoda Swami Namaste Saraswati Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Esha Pushpanjali Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Vanchakalpavishya Kripasinudeva Chapatitanam Bhaviniyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Esha Pushpanjali Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Vanchakalpavishya Kripasinudeva Chapatitanam Bhaviniyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Ho. Namashveshtam Manamapi Shachiputramatra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasya Agrajam Urupari Maturim Pushkamatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radha Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Varum Tam Swaranadata Kurunaika Sindhu Vrindavana Sinahita Vata Prasidadara Pranaya Prachara He Dinabando Kurunaika Sindhu Kuru Prasada Mai Mandamudhe Laksha Parade Bahupapagadhe Tatpada Padmestu Matishta Krishne. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master. By his causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, divine Radhakund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a doleful and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our heart with transcendental knowledge. He is our birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the world. Shri Guru Charan. You do first, Bhaktivonda, then Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Kati Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Kati Sadma. Pando Mui Sadhana Mati. Pando Mui Sadhana Mati. Jahara Prashade Vai Ed Bhavato Riyada Yahara Prashade Vai Ed Bhavato Riyada Krishna Prati Hoy Hoy Te Krishna Prati Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chite Te Koriya Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chite Te Koriya Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Re Seyu Samagati Shri Guru Charane Rati Re Seyu Samagati prashare pure sarva asha chakudan viloje janme janme prabhushe chakudan viloje janme janme prabhushe divya gyan mere prokashita divya gyan mere prokashita prema bhakti jahoite abhidya vinasa jate prema bhakti jahoite abhidya vinasa jate vire gaya jahara charito vire gaya jahara charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lukena Lukera Jivana Lukena Lukera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Pada Chaya Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Pada Chaya Ebe Jatu Shikri Lovana Ebe Jatu Shikri Lovana Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Vinod, Jaya Bhakti Vinod, Jaya Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Vinod, Jaya Bhakti Vinod, Jaya Bhakti Vinod. Vaishnava Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Devi Shesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shattarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shattarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Kali Kurga Jadi Chao He Kali Kurga Purada Jari Cha Oh Hey Kali Juga Pavana Kuli Boy Nashtana Shisachinandana Oh Hey Kali Juga Pavana Kuli Boy Nashtana Shisachinandana Oh Hey Gadadhar Madhan Nikaya Panadan Advaita Prabhujita Gora Gadadhar Madhan Nitaya Pranadan Advaita Prabhujita Gora Nimani Vishambar Srinivasishvar Bhakta Samuatita Chora Nimani Vishambar Srinivasishvar Bhakta Samuachita Chora Manan Nadia Shashadar Mai Purishwa Nam Pravartana Shura Nadia Shashadar Maya Purishwa Nam Pravartana Shura Vijana Shikshaka Nyasikula Nayaka Madhava Radha Bhava Pura Vijana Shikshaka Nyasikula Nayaka Madhava Radha Bhava Pura Sarva Bhoma Shodhana Gajapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Vira Sarvabhuma Shodhana Gajapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Vira Rupananda Vardana Shanatana Palana Haridas Modhana Dira Rupananda Vardhana Sanatana Palana Haridas Modhana Dira Brajaras Bhavana Dishta Mata Shatan Kapati Vigata Nakama Brajaras Bhavana Dishta Mata Shatan Kapati Vigata Nakama Shura Bhakta Palana Shiksha Gyana Tarana Chalapakti Dushana Rama Tarana Chalabhakti Dushanara Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. Jaya Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Vinod, Jaya Bhakti Vinod. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Tagore Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki,
Jai,
Mahamantra ki,
Jai,
Ram Prabhu ki,
Jai,
Guru Premanande, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki,
Jai.
Gora Haribo, 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 Tagore Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privraj Gacharya Stotra Sri Shrimad Bhai Sharanad Vinda Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privraj Gacharya Stotra Sri Shrimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Skoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Shamakunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki. Sambeda Bhakti Vrinda ki. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maha Mahotsav Tirobhava ki. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Tirobhava Maha Mahotsav ki. Shri Kedarnath Dat Bhaktivinoda Thakur Savior of the World ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious assembled devotees. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Hare Krishna. So the best way to advance in devotional service is through Acharya Upasana, worship of the great Acharyas. And we're worshiping the best of all Acharyas today. We're from the Bhaktivinoda Parivar, the family of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we have the shelter of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who perfectly embodies the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all the previous Acharyas, and packaged it just so that we could take advantage of it and distribute it to the whole world. This is the Hare Krishna movement, the one that exploded in 1965 from Boston Harbor, then to Pennsylvania, and then into New York City, San Francisco, Montreal, New Mexico, all the way to the UK, then through Europe, all over the world. It's the same Hare Krishna. The same mood is there. And by worshiping these acharyas, we can get that, pick up that impetus to spread Krishna consciousness. When we have that, it washes away all of the other petty cares we have in the world, stupid desires and worries and all kinds of differences that we may have. And when we have this united desire to please the acharyas, worship them by spreading Krishna consciousness as they've done and as they've given us the opportunity to do, and by chanting Hare Krishna and following their footsteps, tat tat karma pravartana, doing all the varied activities of devotional service, then what's to worry about? Life is perfect, and we're on the train, on the boat, on the airplane, the rocket ship, going back to Godhead. So only thing we have to lament is there's millions of people walking around. These are good people out there. They're sincere, nice people, maybe just messed up, misguided because they didn't get the memo yet. So let's give them the memo. Memo's already written. Krishna wrote a personal memo to the world. Just not everybody got it yet. So don't let the people go without the memo. Make sure they get it. And, this life is hanging in the balance right now because we don't know. At any second, we can just drop off. Any of us can. And we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that if we take shelter of Krishna, then He'll arrange for everything so we can stay in service. And wherever that may be, Narayana Paraksarve Nakutaschana Bipyate Swarga Pavarga Narakeshu Apitulyarta Narshan. It's equal to us because as long as we have the service of Srila Prabhupada and all the great acharyas, then we're satisfied. We don't need anything else. It totally fills us up. Everyone agrees with these ideas in part or in whole. Please say, Jai Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Jai Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you've empowered us all these years, channeled through His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his followers to carry on with our practices of Krishna consciousness. Please purify us. Please purify our chanting and hearing. And please empower us to spread this movement further, wider, with more intelligence, with more imagination than ever before. Please let us spread the book distribution 10-fold, 50-fold, 1,000-fold all over the world. It's never been done before or even conceived of. Please let us experience no limitations on spreading Krishna consciousness. We beg this at your lotus feet and ask for your mercy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.